We have a special speaker. I didn't know that he was coming down. He's an economic professor. What are you? Marketticker.com.org. Carl Denninger is going to talk to us a little bit about what's happening in the financial markets. Carl?
Thank you. Thank you. It's Marketticker.org, by the way. Let me just list a couple of things for you. Let me know if you know what these are. How about the Community Reinvestment Act? How about ACORN? And how about the guy, the only man qualified to lead our Treasury Department out of 330 million Americans, TurboTax Timmy? So the whole thing's a Democrat and left-wing problem, right? Oh, wait a minute. Medicare Part D, signed by a Republican. The drug companies raised your prescription drug prices by 17% in the next year. Henry Paulson went to the SEC and had the leverage limits taken off the investment banks. It was 12 to 14 to 1. They became unlimited. Fannie, Freddie, AIG, Bear Stearns, Lehman, none of them would have gone out of business had that not happened. And let's talk about the granddaddy of them all, the repeal of Glass-Steagall through Gramm-Leach-Bliley, Mr. Phil Gramm, who said we were having a mental recession. Do they have a Baker Act for him, may I ask? Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a partisan issue. The whole purpose of the Democrats and Republicans trying to make it one is to shut you up. If they can get you to point your fingers at the other guys and say, it's that guy over there on the other side of the aisle, you won't pay attention to the sins that are being committed over here. Hey, you know, if I go into a bank and pull out a gun, stick it in a teller's face and say, give me all your money, I go to jail for 20 years. So tell me why Henry Paulson pulled a bunch of congressmen and senators in a room and said, $700 billion and the puppy dies. And he got the money. Where were the handcuffs? We talk about bad accounting and too big to fail. Let's talk about bad accounting and fraud. The big lie. The big lie is that you can have credit and that makes you rich. It does not. It just makes you in debt and eventually broke. You have to mine something, manufacture something, or make something with your hands to have wealth. And that's something we've forgotten about in this country. We sent it all to China and Vietnam. Geometric growth generally, folks. This is 6th grade math stuff, but you won't hear this from Obama, just like you didn't hear it from President Bush. Jimmy Carter lost his job over this. He said, we can't continue to consume more energy at a 7% rate every year, because if we do, in 10 years we'll use more energy than we had used in the entire history of the world. That's the truth. Guess what, guys? It applies to credit and money too. It all works the same way. You learned this in 6th grade. How many of you forgot it 15 minutes later? And why don't we hold these people in Washington to account? Let's talk briefly about employment. They said we lost 250-some thousand jobs last month. That's a damned lie. The real number was 995,000. Guess how? They count them, but you'll never hear the CNBC talking heads give you that number, because you have to read more than the first 2 pages of the report that comes out every month. We've lost 8.2 million jobs in this country, ladies and gentlemen, since July of 2007. And there were another 10 million that had to be made just to keep up with all the illegal immigrants and the people graduating from high school. We're 26 million jobs in the hole in the last 10 years. Where did they all go? I'll tell you where they didn't go. They didn't go to the corner buying things at the store. That's the problem. And we're not going to get solutions by saying, oh, we're going to tax the rich. Here's the truth, folks. In 2000, we had the same mess. We called it the internet bubble. How many people lost money in the stock market in 2000? All right, then you know what happened. All of these companies came out there. I used to run an internet company in Chicago. It's called MCSNet. These folks put out all these things called an S1. It's basically a pie-in-the-sky view of the world. They claimed the global growth and output over 150 times over between them. By my math, that means that more than 99 out of 100 of them were going to go to zero. And guess what? They did. We weren't happy to take our medicine then, so we went ahead and did it again, this time with everyone's house. Now, how many of you either have lost your house or know someone that is being foreclosed on or having a credit cut back? Why do you think it happened, folks? It happened because we had a policy in Washington, D.C. that said we don't have to tell the truth. We can continue to pump out what people think are free money, but guess what? You didn't end up with it. You only thought you were wealthy. Now, your house is worth half of what it used to be worth, and if you bought it after 2001, you're underwater. This nonsense needs to stop. It was fed by fraud all the way from the top down. The bankers, the ratings agencies, and all the way up to the government, including the people who got sweetheart deals from Countrywide, Friends of Angelo. Isn't that a name that suggests fraud to start with? We need to lock them all up. Let's get the prosecuting started and stop the looting. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't get a prosecutor to pay attention to this in Washington, D.C., but we have a prosecutor here in the state of Florida. We have a state attorney general. If you were screwed by a bad deal when it comes to real estate or anything else, that's fraud, and we need to start going after this at the state level because we are not going to see Eric Holder indict Ken Lewis.
Start the prosecution!
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for we the people not just to take back the political process, but to take back the economic process. We will not solve this problem until we have honesty up and down the line, both in corporations and in our banks. We do not have it today. Audit the Fed, get the truth out there, and end the games. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.